Today on GreenCars, the podcast, we meet up with the Director of Marketing for CDK, a company that handles marketing and lots more for the automotive industry. He's going to bring us up to speed on where EVs and hybrids are going, and it all starts right now. Welcome to GreenCars, the podcast, where we talk about all things involving hybrid, plug-in hybrid, and electric vehicles. I'm Trish Glose.
And I'm Dave Nichols. Today we chat with Dave Thomas of CDK Global about trends in the electrified world of transportation. We'll also visit the Electrify Expo in San Francisco, and Trish gets to drive the new Nissan ARIYA EV.
Woohoo! Hold on to your butts, everybody. We have a lot to get to in this episode.
We do. We better get to it.
Dave Thomas is the Director of Content Marketing for CDK Global. Now, Dave, I first saw you, it was a automotive news webinar, and it was an ownership study where I was inundated with so much amazing information. Tell us a little bit about your role at CDK Global.
Sure. So I'm basically in charge of all of our thought leadership. That includes white papers where we take the research our research team does and break it down for both shoppers that are out there, as well as our dealership audience. Our customers are car dealers. So we try and bridge the gap between the two. So it's a better experience when people are buying or selling their car. And part of that research, a lot of it has been focused on EVs over the past few years. But we also look at that purchase process, how long it takes to buy a car, the trade-in process, the negotiating the sale, all those things, as well as inventory, which is really important for EVs as well.
Well, then, Dave, CDK carries out a lot of research on the automotive sector. How does the company compile this research and make it available to consumers?
Yeah, so like I said, we have a very amazing research team, and they are out there all year long fielding studies. And so they field them to both the car shopper, car owners. We even do research into the service process. So we interview and research the person going into the service lane and seeing what their pain points are and how those can be improved. So yeah, we're fielding studies throughout the year, and we try and go back each year to see where things have improved, and if they haven't, how we can improve them going forward.
So like I mentioned, I joined that automotive news webinar, and I was nerding out, Dave, because I was taking so many notes as you guys were chatting. So I want to talk about trends that you're seeing in the automotive world. What are some of the top hybrids and electric cars on the market, and really, why are they so popular?
Yeah, so it's really interesting what we are seeing. There's a lot of conversation that EVs in terms of sales are waning. And that's kind of like a half truth that's out there. The market share is increasing, and it will probably always increase. It's just the pace of that increase that's kind of changed and isn't quite as rapid as people were hoping. There are a lot of factors for that. And one of the biggest drivers is actually Tesla sales dropping, where many manufacturers that are out there, traditional manufacturers, are seeing their EV sales increase. Again, these aren't huge leaps and bounds, but they are increasing. On the hybrid side, there's a little bit of that leaps and bounds going on. Just recently, I think last month, in terms of sales figures, Toyota basically sold as many hybrids as they did regular gas cars, 50-50, which is obviously they are the automaker that is most focused on hybrids than any other, and they have been since the Prius. But it's still pretty remarkable that that's there. And in terms of popularity, where the hybrids are really excelling is in that compact SUV space. The Toyota RAV4 and the Honda CR-V, two of the most popular vehicles overall for over a decade, both have hybrid options and both sell a lot of hybrid versions of those vehicles. It's about a $2,000 price difference between the two if you want to go hybrid or not. So people are opting for that change. Hybrids today are much more seamless than they used to be. You get in a Prius even today, it kind of does feel a little different. They obviously look really different on purpose and stuff like that. But you get in a Honda CR-V or Toyota RAV4 hybrid, it's very similar to how you drive a non-hybrid. An EV, as most people can imagine, is very different once you get inside an EV and start driving it. Everything about it is unique in terms of it's very quiet. The acceleration is linear. All those things that we know make EVs unique. So, and then we have the whole infrastructure conversation to have. So there definitely are trade-offs. And so right now the hybrids are picking up speed because they really don't have a lot of learning curve to them.
It's the gateway car.
It is.
The gateway.
So what about cost factors? What are you seeing as far as cost factors impacting the sale of EVs today?
So it's interesting. In our last ownership study that Trish referenced, price had dropped down in terms of one of the things holding people back, and that's purchase price mainly when you think of price. Much more, it is this. It's not range anxiety. It is the ability to find the charger and the time it takes. That's what's really throwing people off, and we can kind of talk about road trips when we get there. But in terms of the cost, EVs, when you still, if you try and compare apples to apples with an ICE vehicle, the purchase price is still significantly higher. Where we see a lot of less focus on that is on the luxury side. Those buyers are a little more used to spending a lot of money on vehicles. And when you look at the price difference between a luxury ICE and a luxury EV, it's not as big a gap. It's still almost $10,000 when you look at it. But from a $60,000 to a $70,000 car versus a $35,000 to a $45,000 car, vastly different in terms of convincing that buyer. So that's where you kind of see the pricing still happening, where we're seeing almost all of the transactions right now. I shouldn't say almost all. Where we're seeing a lot of the success with selling EVs at the mass market level is with leasing. Leasing has become an incredibly popular way for dealers to get people in these cars at a very low price point, a monthly payment price point, because federal incentives can be applied to leasing. So you get these great deals. You get them on any vehicle. It doesn't matter where they're manufactured, unlike if you purchase. So leasing has become a really terrific avenue for dealers to get buyers into EVs. And I've always said, leasing, if you're EV hesitant or curious, you're only hooked in for a few years. So it always seemed to me from day one, leasing would be the way you'd get that, person on the, on the ledge about it. So it's really, really taking off right now.
Well, and speaking of that, let's talk about if you own a home and if you have an EV and why that's the more, convenient way to go, because you're going to be able to charge overnight. You're not going to really be worried about range anxiety as much unless you go on long trips. What do you guys see as far as, the data?
Yeah, it's definitely, it definitely leans towards the ownership side of things, or just being in a single family home dwelling with a garage and access to charging. So about 90% of all EV owners charge overnight at their home. That's the dream scenario of EVs. You plug it in at night, you wake up in the morning, you unplug it and you go, and you don't have to worry about a gas station ever again, which EV owners, by the way, will cite all the time that they love never having to go to a gas station again. So that's the dream scenario. And what we're really battling is every other scenario out there. Most of all driving happens in that scenario. So, you plug in overnight, the average round trip of the EVs every day is 20 miles. So almost every EV on the market's got a 200-mile range or more now. So it should not be a range concern in that daily life of a homeowner. Now you move out of the homeowner, you go to an apartment dweller, multi-resident dweller, however you want to phrase it. They might have more challenges. Their apartment building might be older, might not have charging available. And a lot of places in California might have that, but in the rest of the country, it is not common. So they have to look for alternative places to charge. A lot of times that's a workplace, becomes very convenient if a workplace has it. And that way, if they know, again, your daily life and how an EV might fit into it, the easier it is to make that decision, that purchase decision. So it's expanding outside of the home ownership, and the longer ranges make it easier for that to happen. But unfortunately, we only hear about the negatives on that scenario, road trip scenarios, all those other things that that EVs do have a harder time doing.
Yeah, for sure. It's always the negative.
Yeah. We're coming up on a pretty big election, and we were wondering, how could the outcome of that election affect EV sales?
Yeah, it's really interesting that any technology could be politicized is always interesting to me, because I just look at the technology aspect of it. So if there's two questions going on in terms of politics and EVs. One is that they've become politicized. There are a large percent of the country that doesn't like EVs for political reason, which again is a little strange to me. But people can believe whatever they want. So the other side of it is who's in charge of making the policies around EVs. And currently, the current administration is promoting them, putting large federal incentives behind them. The last time the Trump administration came in 2016, there were EV incentives in place. They did not remove them. They did not take them away. They left them in place. They weren't as significant as they are today, but they didn't touch them. There's lots of questions of becoming friendly with, the CEO of Tesla for that administration going forward. So there's all types of questions. It's not I wouldn't say if the Republican candidate wins that all the EV promotion will go away. I don't think that's a given because of that fact. And clearly, if the Democrats win, it will likely stay very similar to where it is today.
Yeah. Tell us about how CDK makes buying an EV online easier.
So CDK has, we put software throughout the car dealership. That is our business. So it is a little, it's not very visible to a car buyer, our software. It's on the dealer side of things, but it is there to make the process easier. So if you type in your information online, that when you come in, that they have it at hand. Going through the whole price negotiation stage, being able to see what kind of car payment you have, the ability for that to speed up and happen a little quicker. We find time is the number one friction point of any car buyer, spending time in the dealership. So all of our software is the goal is to make that transaction as smooth as possible. It is a little more sales and dealer oriented than consumer, so it would probably bore them a little bit, the car buyer, of what it does. But we also have software on the service side as well. But it's basically everything that runs the dealership to make the experience better.
Yeah. I mean, it is a lot of time to buy a car. They should offer snacks.
Yes.
Dealerships should offer snacks.
Well, many do. Yeah, right? So customer experience is the number one focus of car dealers in our research. They are focused on it. I think it's like 83% said it's their number one focus, is improving that customer experience. So they understand it, and they want to do that. And so making sure that an EV customer gets what they need is also important.
Sure. Sandwich platter. I want a sandwich platter.
Did you know that Thousand Oaks BMW, if you go in there,
yeah,
they have sushi?
Sushi? Okay. All right. Well, before we get to our very popular segment called Keeping It Current, we ask all of our guests these two questions. Dave, what car do you currently drive?
We have a family vehicle, so we have like a VW Atlas for the family, and my son's got a hand-me-down Outback that's 15 years old. He's driving now, and I had to buy a new car, so I very purposely bought what I consider will be my last gas car. So it's a sporty Audi S3. It's pretty. It does get 35 or more on the highway, which is phenomenal considering how fast it is.
Yeah, I love Audi. If money was no issue and you were looking to buy an EV, what would you get?
I really like what BMW is doing with their EVs in terms of the higher end. That new i5 is really a phenomenal vehicle. You could drive that across the country and it would be a dream, right? And then this M5 that just came out, which is a plug-in hybrid theoretically. So let's just say that counts as an EV. That looks like it would be a lot of fun as well.
I like it. All right. So as we've told you, we get a lot of comments from social media, very colorful comments from some of our listeners. We want to share a couple with you to get your response. in our segment called Keeping It Current.
Yes, it's time to crank up the volume with a few of these comments from our audience and get your response, Dave.
All right.
Our first comment comes from Robert Delaplane, who writes, I'm hearing nothing but regret from EV owners. A heavier car, a really inconvenient pain to keep charged up, a really bad idea.
Okay.
And Pat Polizzi says, wake up. How are thousands of apartment dwellers going to charge their cars? Think New York City.
Okay. It keeps getting better. Bruce Gill writes, I still say Henry Ford's hemp car was a great idea. There was a hemp car?
There was a hemp car, yes. Back in 1942, Ford designed a plastic car made from hemp that was 30% lighter, more fuel efficient, and was 10 times stronger than steel.
Okay, well, what happened to it?
This little thing called World War II happened, and that was the end of production for the hemp car.
Well, Dave, Bruce Gill goes on to say lithium batteries will end up in landfills. And before anyone says those batteries will be recycled, I call BS. You're being lied to and controlled by your government. He goes on and on, but you get the idea. So
There's a lot to unpack there, but let's just take so most of these aren't really what is happening, right? Most of that, what is being said, is not impacting anyone owning or buying or selling EVs. So, gosh, I don't know where to start. So they are heavier, and that's a known issue. They will get lighter over time. Overall, cars across the board have gotten heavier over the past few decades, mainly due to safety. And the nice thing about the weight of an EV is it's at the bottom of the vehicle, which does make them in fact safer with the lower center of gravity. So let's take that weight one off the table. Apartment dwellers in New York City and the other largest cities, it's true, like that, it is more difficult, but it's also easier to, you could just wire an apartment building. You could wire a parking lot, which is all they use. They don't have single family homes in New York City. So to get infrastructure for many, many, many cars wouldn't be that difficult. An EV, well, it is going to be great for the city. They're quieter. It'll cut down the noise in New York City, as long as the horns will still work, unfortunately. But in that way, they are good for a city like New York. But at this stage of adoption, really, it is the suburbs where most people live that will make the difference with EVs right now. And that's what we should be focused on. So whenever I hear the urban stuff and, urban planning and making greener cities, which a lot of it's just taking the cars out entirely, I look at that as farther down the road. I can't, selling a car today is not going to change that tomorrow. So that's going to take a little bit more time. Recycling batteries. This one comes up and it's really interesting. There's been a lot of chatter about this lately. I've been following EVs and studying EVs since the first Nissan Leaf came out over a dozen years ago. The publication I worked at, we bought one, lived with it for a year, only got 80, 90 miles of range total. Those batteries, those very first Leafs, have degraded significantly. Not many people replace them. Basically, the car's life, the batteries aren't totally dead by the time the car's total life is over. What we're seeing with more modern EVs, like a Bolt or a Ford Mach-E or a Tesla's, I should actually point to the Teslas too. They've been out a long time. People aren't replacing batteries willy-nilly in these vehicles. They are not. That is not happening. And I think that is a concern to people that aren't familiar with the technology. And if you're leasing one, you never have to worry about it, right? So in terms of the batteries being this huge impact, upsetting people online, that's not happening. And it's interesting, recycling does work. It's actually very successful. But what they do is they lose part of their charge. They lose their capacity to hold a charge. So the recycling is taking a large car battery and recycling it into something smaller. For the most part, that's like electric forklift batteries or smaller machines like that. But what's going to really take off is like large external batteries that utilities would use or a home would use for backup of solar power. And that's where the recycled batteries are going to do their best work in a place where the size doesn't matter, and they can just stack and stack and stack them for use. So the recycling will pick up. The cars haven't given up the ghost on the batteries yet, so the recycling is going to take a while before that cycle is working. That nice recycle logo.
Bruce just got schooled by Dave Thomas.
Yes.
Yeah.
Take that, Bruce.
Take that, Bruce. Sorry, man.
You know, looking at this from an overall perspective, what we see again and again is there are basically two kinds of comments: people who love EVs and people who hate EVs. So we're just wondering, like, from your point of view, what is this? You know, we understand the love part, but why do people hate EVs, do you think?
It astounds me. I don't quite understand it. When the Prius was first out, there was some of that, you know, it had a very green halo around it. It was, you know, like people would be called tree huggers if you had a Prius. It stood out like. And the earliest EV people were similar, but that's not who the owner is today. And so the people attacking them aren't attacking them on that, you know, tree hugger type level. So I just don't know. They really, I mean, the benefits of EVs in so many ways should make everyone happy. You know, you've seen a lot of electric school buses, I think, and electric delivery vans. All the Amazon vans in my area are all electric. You know, it makes your street, like, just think of the street you live on. It makes your street quieter, right? There's no fumes going. Gosh, when my kids got on the bus, that fumes would go by, you know, it would just hit you in the face. Like, my kids next to that all day. So this is my thesis. As your street becomes more livable because of these other EVs, people should think, I should have one myself to drive, right? But I think it will be a combination of just experiencing it on this other wavelength. But the hate is very strange. I just don't understand why people get so riled up. But, you know, people, you know, the Bears lost last night. People are upset. It happens. You know? It's strange you get upset about certain things, but people do.
We agree. We don't get it either. Dave Thomas, thank you so much once again, Director of Content Marketing for CDK Global. We would love to have you come back if you're willing, once the annual EV buyer survey is released, because again, we want to talk about these latest trends because they are fascinating. Absolutely.
Sounds great. Happy to come back.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you, Dave.
All right. Take care.
Dave Thomas.
I mean, I felt like that interview could have been much longer, and I'm very thankful he's willing to come back and talk to us.
Me too.
But just the stats in general, we mentioned one in that interview where the number of people looking to buy EVs in the next few years, because they've said in that survey, I'm not going back. It's EVs from now on. Right. So that means a lot more EVs are going to be on the roads in the next several years.
Well, and it certainly means that the dealerships are going to have to crank up their understanding about electric cars and all the things you need or don't need if you own an EV.
Right. And even Dave was saying, you know, there's certain numbers we didn't really get to, the road trip numbers, or who's taking road trips in EVs and where people are charging and the charging issues that we've talked about in other episodes. So again, I feel like we could have talked to him for maybe another half hour.
Yeah. No, and what I love though is we're creating this group of people that we can call on for answers about specific different kinds of things. And, you know, CDK has their fingers on the pulse.
Really.
So this is great for us.
Smarty pants over at CDK. They're looking at all the numbers. They're doing all of the research. And you're right. We are creating this like GreenCars family of smarty pants.
Right.
I really like it.
Yeah, I do as well. And it's very important because I don't think there's anything else out there like what we're doing at the moment. And this is where things are going to go.
I agree.
You know? So pretty exciting.
Yeah.
And before we move on, Trish,
Okay.
I've been hearing news of garbage trucks exploding due to lithium-ion batteries.
Wait, exploding like blowing up?
Yes, inside the garbage truck.
Oh.
Yeah. They're engulfed in flames,
Okay.
and these are not electric car batteries that I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is lithium-ion batteries that you might use in your laptop, smartphone, or lots of other devices that are smaller lithium-ion batteries that once they're used up, people just toss them in the garbage.
Right. Okay.
Well, you can't do that because what happens is lithium-ion batteries do what is known as thermal runaway. It can happen in which a chain reaction occurs, heat builds up, and the batteries explode.
Yikes.
And when that happens, it's very difficult for the fire department to put those out.
I have read some issues with those lithium-ion batteries, and they burn hot.
Really hot.
And for a really long time. So how then do we get rid of lithium-ion batteries in a safe way?
Luckily, we have recycling centers to the rescue.
Okay.
Many home improvement stores also, such as Home Depot and Lowe's, will take your old lithium-ion batteries and dispose of them for you, or you can contact Call to Recycle or Recycle More to find a recycling center near you.
Now, see, there's some good tips right there. That's news you can use. You really learn the important stuff on this podcast. I hope you're taking notes.
Yes, indeed. And moving on, Trish, I understand that you were really taken by the new Nissan ARIYA.
Okay. I mean, I know I probably say this about all the cars I drive. I was really fond of this one. I really like this vehicle.
And as she says in this review, hang on to your butts.
This is the 2024 Nissan ARIYA Platinum. When it comes to car reviews, I'm fairly certain I figured out the metrics. Go fast, take it through some curves, test the brakes, and push all the buttons. Testing out some of the self-driving features, let's start with parking. Parallel parking is a cinch with the ARIYA. The car has to recognize other vehicles or the curb, and you simply adjust the position you want to park in, press start, and the vehicle works its magic to get you exactly in the spot you requested. The whole process isn't necessarily quick, but it gets the job done. So if you're in a hurry, you may just have to rely on those driving school lessons and do it yourself. I am about to hop on the freeway. I want to check out the ARIYA's Pro Pilot Assist feature. It's a hands-on driver assist system. It uses Nissan's intelligent cruise control along with steering assist technologies. It's pretty simple to activate. There's a blue button right here on the steering wheel. You hit that and then set your cruise control. Find your speed, hit set. Things are supposed to light up and turn green, and I don't know. I mean, I'll get some espresso and a croissant and then I can just drive away. All right, here we go. Maybe I should establish driving on the freeway first. Oh, and it's a busy day on the freeway. Goody! I have found a desirable speed. Set. Look, no hands. Sorry, I'm just kidding, I may be a newbie to the electric vehicle game, but I have to admit, I felt the most comfortable, the most at ease in the ARIYA. And if I'm ever in the market for a safe, fun, cool EV, would the Nissan ARIYA be on my list? Yep.
What a great review.
Well, thank you. What a fun car. As I mentioned in the review, I think I've mastered car reviews. And please, I'm not saying I'm good at them at all, but the formula, you drive it pretty fast,
Yep.
Test those brakes, make sure they work, and then push all the buttons in the vehicle and just see what happens. See what comes next.
Well, the first one I remember that I did with an EV, people, they're there to see it go fast. They've heard they
100%.
go fast. So
Yeah.
you have to do that thing where you throw yourself back in the seat and have like wind blowing in your face. I
Exactly.
mean, you have to,
Yeah.
that's what they want.
Just make sure you're in a safe part of your community when you do that, when you test out how fast it goes.
Yeah,
That's
because
just-
it goes.
Yeah, that's a little
They all
PSA.
go.
Well, I'm not the only one making car reviews around here.
True. We have 3 great interns for GreenCars that recently had the chance to visit the Electrify Expo in San Francisco, and they produced some killer social media content.
I mean, here's Grace Smith, Katie Fitzgerald, and Michael Holden's video impressions. Let's take a look.
Oh my gosh. Okay, Katie, what are we doing today? We are going drifting. Thank you. Hi.
Hi. Once. You guys working?
Yeah, we work for the GreenCars.
First time in the Mach-E?
Yeah.
Sweet.
This is beautiful.
Give me a countdown.
Ready?
Yeah.
3. Oh my gosh! That was awesome. What happened to the countdown? Thank you so much. Oh my god. Yes. Oh my gosh, that was awesome.
Michael, nice to meet you.
I'm nervous. I have no idea what I'm doing.
All right. Hold the brake, twist that forward.
I act like I've never driven a car before. I'm like, what do I do? We were exploring the expo yesterday, and we saw there's one guy who's decked his whole Cybertruck out. So he walks on it.
My God.
Bruh. That's crazy.
To walk on a Cybertruck is crazy.
He was like banging it up, showing us how strong they are.
Right? So you can go to a parking lot. Don't worry about
I've never done a launch before.
Oh, no, it's just simple. Just gun it. But
Just like actually to the floor. Like to the floor.
Yep.
Oh my God.
Go ahead. Go.
Oh.
Go. Go.
Oh my gosh.
Go.
You had any crazy experiences so far where someone else is driving?
No, and I almost said not yet, but I don't want it to be not yet.
I'll try not to change that.
Okay, I'm glad we did that.
Awesome job.
They had too much fun.
Yeah.
Michael and his Moto Compacto, which, by the way, is parked right behind me if you're watching this episode.
Still steaming.
Right, exactly. And then I love Grace and Katie in the Mach-E. The driver does not even give them a chance to finish that countdown, and he just puts the pedal to the metal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And having been in that, a previous episode,
Right.
It's a lot of fun. There's so much to do at the Electrify Expo, and they're wrapping up the whole Electrify Expo in November, is
Right. November, they're ending in Austin, but they're putting dates on the calendar for next year. So head to their website, learn more. I would highly encourage anyone to go to this expo. You learn a lot. It's so much fun.
Absolutely. And we'll show you a little bit more from the Electrify Expo in the next episode of GreenCars, the podcast. And I would have to say this is a wrap.
This is a wrap.
For another exciting episode.
The thrills and the chills of GreenCars, the podcast.
Absolutely.
We would love to hear from you. So if you're watching these episodes, just head to our YouTube channel and you can leave us a comment there. If you're listening to the podcast, please drop us a comment on any of our social media platforms. And don't forget, when it comes to EVs, as always, stay informed, stay charged. We'll see you next time. Follow us at GreenCars HQ. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Email us, thepodcast@greencars.com.